Welcome to Animal X. And we're on the trail of an unexplained phenomenon that's spreading fear throughout the Australian bush. A rash of unexplained livestock killings. Giant flesh-eating predators lurking in the dark. What these animals are, no one's sure. We know them only as alien big cats. But the Australian government officially denies the existence of such creatures. There have been far too many sightings to ignore.
What I saw was a panther.
Definitely either a jaguar or a black leopard.
He jumped on me, so I put my arm up in defence.
What are these animals that scream in the night? There are stranger things in heaven and earth, and you're about to see one of them.
Just be careful.
Kitty cats may be popular pets down under, but felines are not and have never been native to Australia. On nearby continents, big cats rule the animal kingdom. Lions, leopards and cheetahs in Africa, tigers in India and Asia. But officially, Australia has none of these. This isolated island continent has evolved its own collection of deadly and unique predators. Venomous spiders, lethal snakes, wild dogs, and 30-foot man-eating crocodiles. Fierce indeed, but there's no way that any of these animals could be responsible for the livestock killings that have been going on throughout the Australian bush. Horses savaged, goats torn limb from limb, sheep remains dangling from treetops. What beast could be responsible for this kind of carnage? I'm sending Daniel and Natalie into the lion's den, to the Blue Mountains outside Sydney, where several witnesses have come face to face with alien big cats. One of those people is Luke Walker.
Now, Luke, you were actually attacked by a huge cat. Take us through what happened.
Well, I was getting the mail. It was dark, about 8:30 at night time, but there was no clouds in the sky. Big moon, so you could see what was happening. I was walking back towards the house and I heard a growl. A feline growl, and I turned around and there was this big cat sitting there. And it jumped on me. So I put my arm up in defence, just in front of my face like that, and its claws lodged into my arm. So I punched it in the face, and it got off and ran into the bush.
So after it took off, did you run?
Yeah, I went down to the house and it took off down to the bush down there.
Oh, down there?
Yeah. Well, it was about the size of a Labrador, more muscly. It was black, and yeah, it was big.
So tell us about the wounds you received from this big cat.
No, I had 8 on my arm and 3 on my stomach. The ones on my stomach weren't too bad. They've all healed up and the scars have gone. The ones on my arm, I've still got the scars.
Did you ever feel like it was trying to kill you?
At one point, yeah.
Did you think it was trying to go for your neck?
Yeah, I do actually. But unfortunately, it didn't get there.
So did you tell the authorities, like the police or National Parks and Wildlife, about it?
The council didn't want too much to do with it, neither did the police.
Luke's not the only one to have had a run-in with a big black cat. Listen to what other witnesses have to say.
And I've looked across and saw what I thought at the time to be a large black dog.
This is Jeff Fox. He claims to have seen an alien big cat while out jogging.
But at the time of seeing it, I realised that it wasn't a large black dog, and I've had another look and then realised what I saw was a panther.
Definitely either a jaguar or a black leopard or...
Mustafa Ahmida is originally from Africa. He knows a big cat when he sees one.
And I saw this big black cat just take off from there, and it took off and went right across this fence and went up there.
I was just standing in here and I was just looking at the bush, just to unwind.
Greg Upton also claims to have seen the same creature.
And I saw this large black cat. Body was about this high, about this high from memory, and it ran up the slope up there.
4 witnesses, 4 similar descriptions. But could they be mistaken? There's an enormous feral cat problem in Australia. It's estimated there are between 3 and 30 million cats running wild. Is it possible that these witnesses were actually encountering overgrown black house cats? Or was it really a panther?
For years, there have been rumours that overgrown cubs, kept as mascots on American warships during World War II, were released into the Australian bush. And all over the country, there are stories of big cats escaping from travelling circuses. Perhaps they're more than just local legend. The term black panther is commonly used to describe 2 species of large black cats, the black jaguar and the black leopard. Now, if it's the near-threatened jaguar of Central and South America, then the risk to people is fairly low. However, if it's the endangered leopard of Africa and Asia, then pound for pound, it is one of the most aggressive and feared creatures in the world. And it's considered a man-eater.
If panthers are running wild, then it's not just the livestock that's in danger. And yet, the government seems to have washed its hands of this dire situation. Officials say they won't get involved unless someone brings them absolute proof of the animal's existence. Easier said than done.
Do you think the authorities should be taking this a little bit more seriously?
I sure do. There's been enough sightings around now. There's been enough anecdotal evidence to indicate that there most likely is something there. It's just fortunate now that a small child hasn't been killed. Let's cut to the chase. But there hasn't been anybody killed by this thing. I think there should be enough concern that the authorities should be doing something about trying to at least identify, to confirm that there is something there, and to try and capture the thing and take it away so that we're not in danger. There's a lot of people around here that are quite frightened, and it'd be nice to know that there is some formal action being taken to remove the danger.
Do you fear for your family and other people if it's coming so close up to the houses and things?
Well, yes, if the children get out at night and they don't know what it is, you know, it could attack the children.
I'd like to see the animal caught. I believe it's a danger to the local wildlife. It's got to be living on something, and it certainly isn't. The Australian bush is not a fit place for an animal that's of that nature. You know, I've since done a lot of research into panthers, and they're very frightening animals. They're very powerful and strong, and it's certainly not a fit place around suburbia for such an animal to be.
But what's really frightening is that there isn't just one cat out there. There are believed to be dozens, with their numbers on the rise. I've sent Dan and Nat to the Dandenong Ranges in the state of Victoria, where the alien big cat has left his deadly mark. Natalie is talking to farmer Ray Barry. This former skeptic is now convinced that the alien big cats exist. He claims one of his prize horses was killed by one.
He only had a lump out of his neck, like where something had bitten its neck open. The halter was broken, and the rug had big claw marks down the side of it. What made me convinced it was a big cat, there was no other marks on the horse. If it had been a wild pack of dogs, there would have been marks around the feet, anywhere else. There was only marks on the rug and on the throat. And that's what makes me convinced it was a big animal.
So before your horse attack, you didn't believe that big cats existed in this area?
No, I was a non-believer. Okay, maybe, but generally a non-believer.
So you were a non-believer in the beginning. Now, are you absolutely convinced there are big cats out there?
I am 100% believe there is a big cat out there of some type. I don't know what type, but I believe it is a big cat.
Ray has never seen the cat, only the devastation left in its wake. But local animal expert Wolfram Richter says he's seen the predator at least 20 times. He's been studying big cat phenomena in Victoria for 20 years. He even has a photograph of one. After the mysterious death of Ray's horse, Wolfram raced to the scene and inspected the body.
Immediately I saw that it could not have been dogs, because dogs go at best at the flank to cut the sinews to get an animal down, in particular of that size. So when I saw the horse on the third day after it actually occurred, that incident, investigations were difficult because it was already going towards the first decaying processes. There was no more value really in skinning the animal and look underneath for bruising, so you could identify the paw print of the animal actually. And then later on Ray showed me the horse rug up here.
Wolfram kept the rug that the horse was wearing when it was killed. He says you can clearly see by the tear marks on the rug that the killer was a big cat.
So when we go, for instance, and look at the markings of what the paw obviously has caused, it's okay. We can see that the scratch marks are here about 7 centimeters apart. There was a third one around here, which is now less visible. That shows you already the width of a size of paw that must have been involved. Now, no small cat could make such an opening of a paw because even the paw size is not big enough for it. So immediately I knew, yes, we have here a big paw that caused the scratching in this direction. Yes, definitely a big cat. There was no question to me. The question was then, for me, which way was the horse attacked? Was it attacked trying to get in the throat, which is a normal big prey animal attack, or was it from behind? And I looked at the sloping down there, and that told me the animal must have jumped onto the horse from behind. The cat jumped onto the back. The horse panicked, ran downhill, and then when it got further down towards a steeper slope section, with the weight, with the fear, the panic, it just must have finally collapsed on its front feet after skidding for about a good 20 feet, 7 meters, with all 4 legs. So the cat on its back must have got imbalanced by the horse getting down on its front knees, got thrown over, that's how the scratch marks came this way, right over the horse's head. And that's what I believe caused the halter to be torn in such a fashion. It's virtually like a knife cut, and that material is so tough that can hold a ton.
After talking to the witnesses and having a scout around their property and the surrounding bushland, we've come across some really interesting things. One of them is these trees. Now, big cats are known to mark their territory in a number of ways. One of those ways is to actually put scrape marks down trees. And here you can see what could possibly be one of those scrape marks. It's hard to say for sure that it is, but it is definitely an indicator that there could be big cats in the area.
What an exciting discovery. A giant scratching post right in the middle of big cat country. Looks like the hunt for Australia's phantom predator is starting to heat up.
Just an hour ago, we both stumbled upon this scat. And as you can see, this is a very exposed site. It's telling other cats in the area, this is my territory, keep away. And looking at the scat itself, I honestly can't think of any other Australian animal that would produce something like this. It's too big to be a fox or a dog. And I know that it's not a feral cat because feral cats and domestic cats bury their droppings, whereas big cats don't. But I think we're definitely on the right track.
These scats are very strong evidence that big cats are here. But how can we get a closer look at this elusive creature? Nick Costello lives close by and says he's noticed a strange smell in a bush gully and knows exactly where a big cat den is.
This gully is one of the gullies that the panthers would use on a regular basis. There's plenty of cover. They can move up and down without being noticed. But the particular important thing about this one is that we suspected for many years there might be a lair in here. There was a major track clearing in here and they cleared all the blackberries out. And lo and behold, exactly in the place where I smelt that smell, found what was probably a lair, right there.
Wow. The thing is about the blackberry bushes, they're so dense and spiky, there's protection for anything that wants to hide in there.
Oh, they're impenetrable. You might have wombats that would make tunnels in them.
Yeah.
And I imagine the cats would probably use them to get through. But in terms of people getting in to have a good look around,
it's impossible.
Impossible. And when you see the lair, you'll realise just how easy it was for the cat because she could get out the back door. There's a back door in this lair, and anything or anybody coming to the front of it, she would see them coming from a long way off and she'd be gone. Okay, just up here. Just get over here.
This is your den.
Yeah, have a look, step down there and have a look up in there. Let's see how far back it up is. Back up again. Bit of a back door up there.
Definitely an exit point.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good little spot for her to be. She's got water down there for the cubs. If she's nursing cubs, she'd need a ready supply of water. And the back door, she can get out of there. So anybody coming along, any animals or anything coming on to pester them, she's gonna say, I'm out the back. I'm gone.
Nick's reported what he's seen to the Victorian state government, but he's been unable to get anyone to take his report seriously. Exactly the same situation is occurring in the state of New South Wales, where hundreds of eyewitnesses also swear that they've seen a panther. The New South Wales state government refuses to take any action on the big cats. It won't even admit they exist. Are they intentionally hiding something? Animal researcher Chris Coffey thinks so. She's fed up with the authorities' position and has been conducting her own alien big cat investigation. I've sent Dan and Nat to her farm in Grosse Vale to see what she has to say.
Do you think there's more than one?
I definitely believe that we have a breeding population. Yes, on our database we have, I think on 3 occasions now, people that have seen 2 together. Now these big cats are solitary animals and so they only ever get together to either mate or they are with progeny.
Why do you think that there's such disbelief in authorities that this creature's out there?
I have no idea. I just don't know why, with all the evidence that has been presented, that they cannot believe it, or if they do believe it, want to ignore it. It's a very dangerous animal, and the older these animals get, and if we've got a breeding population, there's going to be a lot of people in a lot of danger.
Do you think there's a conspiracy or a cover-up?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
How many people in this database now? What's the number up there?
145, I think, isn't it? Yeah, 145. Yep.
Chris and her team have put together a database of sightings, some excellent footprint casts, and a collection of what appear to be big cat scats. And still, the authorities won't take her seriously.
My first phone call was to Taronga Park Zoo, where they virtually hung up on me and laughed. I rang National Parks and they told me it was koalas mating, but koalas don't scream, they grunt. I then rang National Parks and Wildlife and they flicked me to the Rural Lands Protection Board, and Keith Hart, that's the vet there, actually talked to me and believed what I had seen might be right.
I'm sending Natalie to meet with Dr. Hart. He's been looking into the situation himself, and it seems that Chris is not the first local resident to contact him about seeing a big cat.
So what evidence have you discovered through your investigations that have convinced you that there are big cats around this area?
Well, first of all, the consistency of the witness statements is very interesting. It's always black. The descriptions are of a cat roughly the same size. So the consistency of the eyewitness reports is fairly convincing. And you're talking about people, you know, professionals, lawyers, doctors, dentists, people with absolutely nothing to gain by making this stuff up. So that's one point. But I've also investigated a kill of a yearling goat just up the road from here, and the kill pattern was like something I've never seen before. And all that was left was skin and a few bones, and they had been picked totally clean. The eyeballs had been sucked out, every piece of flesh had been taken off the skeleton. It was an amazingly surgical piece of work.
Dr. Hart and I both agree this couldn't have been the work of any native Australian species, or the work of a fox or a wild dog. He believes it could be nothing else other than a big cat.
Now, I've certainly seen enough over the years to convince me that there really is a big cat, a big black cat, probably a leopard, living in this area.
And you actually wrote a few reports based on the evidence that you'd found.
I've written 3 reports to the Department of Agriculture over the years to try and put it into context for the department and give them something to work with. But yeah, I put my professional credibility on the line, and if I hadn't been sufficiently convinced, there's no way I would have done that.
And what was the department's response?
That's a good question. I don't think there was much of a response.
Well, Dr. Hart seems convinced, but he's even having trouble getting the authorities to take things seriously. Some say they're intentionally hiding the truth. Chris Coffey and her colleague Mike Williams decided to do a little quality control experiment. The results were disturbing.
Now, you guys have seen quite substantial evidence to prove that these big cats exist in the area. What have you found?
Well, we've found the unusual scats, the hair samples, and the pug prints primarily. And so what we've been doing is we've been mailing the pug prints around the world, and most of the zoologists are going, we've got a large cat, which we think is really interesting, and we've been mailing the scats off to different people and trying to get them to identify it locally. The photos of the scats have been identified as being fielded because of the size and the hair and bones when they've been mailed overseas, but we're having some problems with the physical examination of the scats and hairs in Australia.
What response are you getting from the Australian authorities?
Well, no matter how odd the scats that Chris has given to it by different farmers or whatever in the area, no matter how many bones and fur, they keep coming back as dog or feral cat or regurgitated dog vomit or owl pellets. So what I went and did was just to do a blind study, which is a standard scientific thing, was I got hold of a leopard scats and sent them off to 2 experts that have been used by the government to identify these samples. And I also had some leopard hair, and I sent that off as well to see what they'd say. And unfortunately, they're incapable of actually identifying it. Came back dog in all cases.
So these are the scat reports?
Yep, those 2 are the scat reports. And as you can see, it's a dog that's been eating possibly wallaby.
So you've taken hair samples and scat samples from a leopard from a private zoo.
Yep.
The hair samples have come back domestic cat, and the scats have come back dog.
Yep.
Now that's just ridiculous.
It's pretty strange.
So the government-authorised lab seems incapable of telling the difference between a leopard and a domestic dog. Was it a mistake? Incompetence? Or a deliberate cover-up? To find out, we've done a blind study of our own. We've also got hold of some leopard droppings from a private zoo. And we've sent them to exactly the same lab used by Mike and Chris for their blind study. While we wait for the results, Daniel and Natalie are going on a big cat hunt. Hopefully they'll turn up some hard evidence on tape.
Bill's had a camera trap out on Chris's property for about a week before we arrived. We've had a look at it and there's nothing on it. So we're going to have a look at the map and see if we can find some places to put some more traps down and maybe have a camp out. This is as good a spot as any.
Yeah.
The 3 game trails coming into one spot.
As well as the camera traps, we have another trick up our sleeves. We've brought along the rest of those leopard scats from the private zoo that Bill sent to a lab for testing and verification. Unlike feral cats that will bury their scats, big cats will place their scats on top of things to mark their territory. So if we put this scat here, whatever big cat is in the vicinity, it's going to smell that and think, uh-oh, there's another cat around, I better check it out. Oh, I really wish you could smell this, because then you'd get some idea just how strong and pungent the odour of these big cat scats are. And that's why they use the scats to mark their territory.
So cats are attracted to shiny things, so we've got a bit of reflective foil here which we've put on a stick, and with a bit of luck, the curiosity of the cat will be its own downfall. Best thing about these eco traps is whatever gets caught in it is not going to get hurt. Is that stick centre of frame?
Yep, centre of frame.
We're also setting up a small microwave camera in the gully just below our campsite. This will transmit pictures directly back to our tent.
Well, that's perfect, isn't it? You don't need it much higher than that.
No, just because it's breaking up a bit.
Oh.
That's what I meant, just so we get a clearer signal.
We have our forward-looking infrared camera, or FLIR, with us. It recognises heat and makes flesh and blood creatures like Natalie, or an alien big cat, stand out against the vegetation.
So we just sit and wait?
Or stand uncomfortably.
Owls.
Yeah, well, if you're not used to all the strange noises that come out of the bush, it can be pretty freaky. There's a lot of strange things. Possums make some really weird noises.
Yeah, but you and I are quite used to sounds in the bush. But still, whenever you hear a crash or other noises, you still start to think, don't you?
Yeah. Well, especially if you're looking for something like that, like a big cat. But then they would be completely silent anyway, so they wouldn't be crashing through the bush. If a big cat was stalking you, you wouldn't hear it or see it until it was too late.
Daniel and Natalie have been up all night, watching the feed from their stealth cams, hoping a big cat will come calling. Now they're checking the camera traps that were trained on the leopard scat left in the bush.
Looks like the scat's been moved.
There's something to scratch at it.
Because it was right in the centre there, wasn't it?
That bit's been taken apart.
I can see some little tracks up there. It could be a possum, or a domestic cat might have checked it out.
Let's have a look.
You guessing something small?
Yeah.
I'm thinking something small.
Something small indeed. The only thing captured on the stealth cams were flies. There have been some other interesting developments, though. We've just got the results back from the lab on our leopard scats. Very interesting indeed. Natalie's caught up again with Mike Williams to tell him the news.
And we sent it off to be analysed, and it came back dog scat, which for me is just ridiculous. I mean, I dissected the scat myself. I saw, first of all, how large it was and how smelly it was. There is no way from the smell of this scat that it could be dog. Either they're extremely incompetent or this is blatant fraud.
I think it's a mixture of both.
Can you believe it? We sent them the known leopard scats and they've told us it's dog. So I asked them to double-check the results and they refused.
For legal reasons, we can't publicly name the lab that we sent the scat to, but we will be sending the details to the proper authorities because the implications are huge. The New South Wales state government refuses to acknowledge that there is a big cat problem unless there's positive proof. But how can there be proof positive if there's a conspiracy by someone somewhere to cover up any proof? Especially if the cover-up involves the government or government departments, as many people believe.
So do you think this is just a cover-up, that they're just shelving these reports because they really don't know what to do about it?
It is a cover-up, yeah, you're completely correct, and they're trapped. If they say there's a problem, they're going to have to do something about it. If they don't say there's a problem, they've got people like myself and Chris who keep pulling up evidence and pulling up witnesses and putting up studies and pulling up scientists. So I don't know what they should do. I know what they should do, but I know that more than likely than not, they'll just do nothing.
Heavy stuff indeed. In the meantime, Mike Williams has heard about another incredible big cat sighting nearby. Daniel and Natalie are on their way to meet with Karen Dolan at East Currajong on the outskirts of Sydney. They will also speak with her brother, David Poletti. Apparently, they've both come face to face with the fierce feline.
Mike thinks that Karen Dolan has quite a credible story because she's actually found more evidence in the bush around her property. I think we should question her ourselves.
Yeah, definitely, because with her testimony and the other witnesses that we speak to, we'll be able to build a bigger picture of what's happening around here and what people are seeing.
Karen was in her garden when she saw the huge black cat walking down her driveway. She watched for a full 2 minutes, but once the cat spotted her, it went down on its haunches, ready to attack.
While you expect to see a dog, it was instantly obvious that it wasn't a dog. There were just so many things that were wrong about it. The coat was perfectly sleek, even length all over. But it was mainly the ears. They were sort of on the side, like koala ears sort of things, and that was like just really strange. And you could see shoulder blades as well. I didn't feel threatened even then, but I think it was just more like surprise, you know, amazement. It's sort of like, whoa, look what I'm seeing. It didn't make a noise. It didn't do anything that I considered a threat, but since then I found out that was a threatening behaviour.
Do you realise just how lucky you were because you said that the cat crouched down, which means it was about to attack, and then you did the wrong thing by running inside and you turned your back on it? You're very lucky.
Yeah, I do realise that now, and in fact, you know, I mean, I should have realised it back then too.
But this wasn't the first time Karen had had a visit from the big black cat. It has raided her chicken coop on many occasions and eaten her chickens.
Each time a chook was taken, only one chook was taken, the others were left alone, and there wasn't the trail of feathers that a fox leaves. Like, they make absolute destruction inside the pen and you can follow the track all the way up. This was nothing, just one massive beach ball size hole, chicken gone, nice and neat, and no other damage.
Karen's brother David has also had some close encounters with the big cat, and they've left some vivid images in his mind.
So what did it look like?
It's definitely a large cat. It seems a little bit disproportional to what you might think a cat looks like, because it seems to have a long body and short, strong, powerful legs, and its tail was very straight, 90 degrees to its spine, just curled up, the tail curled up at the very end.
Sure. What makes you think it wasn't just a big feral cat?
It's too big. It's So it's much bigger than any animal we're used to seeing on a regular basis.
Do you think that this creature is the guilty party making the holes in the chicken coop?
I don't see why not. It's definitely a large animal. It's a powerful animal that's doing the damage. And the chickens disappear quickly, so it just appears to be a very efficient hunter, whatever it is that's doing it.
So it seems as though there's a panther definitely creeping around this neck of the woods. And with the latest sighting just last night, Daniel and Natalie are keen to get the stealth cameras and the eco traps out again.
We're out here on Karen's property in a little gully leading from her dam, and we're looking for signs that there are big cats around. And Karen heard it growl around this area just last night. So it's very close. We are very close to where this big cat is. And we know that there are swamp wallabies that frequent this little gully. They come here and they feed on the grasses. And as you can see, there's plenty of overhangs for them to hide away in, and they also hide away in the grass. So what's a big cat going to do? It's going to follow them. Follow them through these gullies, and if you can see how dark this area is, a big black cat is going to blend in very well. It can hide behind these rocks and stalk the wallabies and jump out at them as they pass by. But what we need to do is find a narrow spot along this gully so that the cat has to pass the camera trap. We'll see what we can find.
Well, Karen heard it last night, so it's definitely in this area. Whether we will have any luck or not is another thing, but we'll try.
I think the best place to start looking is where there's prey.
Yep. Under that ledge?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good spot.
Looks like there's been a bit of movement under there recently.
And scratch marks here. Going up there. And here. Something's jumped. Pulled the moss off. We've just chosen this spot because there's a really recent fresh game trail that's quite commonly used by all sorts of things coming up this creek bed, and it goes underneath this overhang. It looks like something's been lying in here, could be anything. And it's nice and protected in here as well, so we'll put the camera trap here with some bait, and maybe we'll be able to tempt something in front of the camera, and we'll see what will take our bait.
Daniel and Natalie are going to leave their camera traps on Karen's property for a few days. If the big cat is still around, and it sounds like it is, we may just get lucky. Daniel, what do you think? Are these witnesses believable?
I think they're very believable. The eyewitnesses are 100% convinced of what they've seen, and the eyewitnesses are very credible. We've got eyewitnesses from Asia and Africa that, would recognise it if they saw a big cat, and they do recognise it. So I think that there is something out here.
I think it's time to get an official response.
Well, that sounds quite interesting, because a lot of the eyewitnesses have been quite frustrated with the authorities because they're claiming that the authorities do not take their sightings seriously. So it would be quite interesting to speak to someone from the council and see what they think about these sightings.
I want you to pay a visit to the Hawkesbury City Council. They're the local authority responsible for this area. Dan, I've organised for you to talk with the Chief Engineer, Chris Daly. And Natalie, you'll be talking with the Mayor, Bart Bassett.
How many reports and sightings are actually made to the council regarding the big cat?
I think in the last 4 years, we've had 100 and something reports of sightings or evidence that there are cats around.
Do you think that there is much hope in controlling something like this? I mean, the authorities can barely control, like in Australia we have problems with feral domestic cats and rabbits and everything like that. What chance is there that we can control or do something about a big cat population?
It would certainly be a huge problem for the state government to undertake. I'll acknowledge that. But the fact is they should be at least warning people of the danger. You have bushwalkers, tourists who are walking through the national parks, and also local residents who live adjacent to national parks that are at risk.
Why do you think that there is a problem with the state government taking responsibility for this?
I think it'd be too large a task for them to undertake. Everybody has limited budget responsibilities and it's probably just too large.
So what is the state government's consensus on the existence of these big cats around here?
In response to the correspondence we've sent, they've written back saying that there is more likely than not large cats exist in the national park. On top of that, they've actually listed photographs of large cats on their website. However, they don't actually take the next step and warn people that there have been sightings in the national park in the outskirts of Sydney, and therefore they should be looking for sightings of these sorts of animals and report them. They haven't gone that step. They should at least be making the community aware that there is a likelihood and then get on with proving the sightings to be real.
So, the residents seem to have allies in the local council. At least that's a start. Our camera traps have been on Karen's property for a few days now, undisturbed by human hands. And it's time for Daniel and Natalie to return to the scene and check for results. It's time to see if any big cats have been wandering by.
We're at Karen's property and I'm about to check a camera trap that we left under this ledge here using a scat as bait. And Dan's going to be checking another camera trap right next to the chicken coop where we also set up an eco trap. So, fingers crossed, hey? Well, it doesn't look like the scat's been disturbed. In fact, there's an awful lot of mould growing around it. And I haven't seen any footprints either, so it's not a good sign. These guys are hungry. But they're not interested in the scat. So nothing but marsupial mice on that one.
The eco trap hasn't been set off, but we'll check the camera trap anyway just to see if something's come up and had a bit of a smell. No, there's nothing on this one.
Did you get anything on that one?
That's just insects, I think. They're just going through it and getting out all the nutrients. Tiny little...
Like a little rat or a mouse or something ran past.
No, it was marsupial, definitely marsupial. There's another one.
Oh. It's almost like they're running away from something.
And again.
Oh,
and again.
But they're running past the camera. This particular camera trap, the food is missing, so we don't know what's taken it. We're just having a look.
Ants. Nothing took it. There's nothing on it.
Nothing.
But there's an ant pile. See the ant sand? And maggots. Look at all those maggots. See them?
Wow, no way.
Hundreds and hundreds of maggots and a heap of ants. That's what ate the meat.
Kangaroos, mice, flies, and maggots. Everything but big cats on our camera traps. But there's plenty of other evidence these alien big cats are around. Would you agree, guys?
Yep, we have spoken to a lot of people, and they are all pretty convinced that there's something out there. We haven't seen
anything ourselves out in the field, but that's not to say that there isn't anything out there.
The state government authorities seem to be ignoring the situation. Do you think they should be doing more about the big cat problem?
I don't think they'd actually be able to do anything about it. Authorities, can't even handle domestic feral cat situations, so I don't think that they would be able to do anything about a big cat anyway.
How about you, Natalie? Do you think we've got enough evidence to prove that alien big cats are really out there?
Well, I think that you really can't ignore all of the eyewitnesses. I mean, Chris Coffey has looked at close to 160 encounters with this big cat, and a lot of those people are extremely credible, and they're risking their credibility coming forward and talking about these big cats. They've also found evidence. They've found scats, they've found scratch marks, and they've got the backing of the council as well. So I think there is a big cat out here, but I think it's going to be a tough mission trying to find it.
So, as our investigators have discovered, the evidence of alien big cats in Australia is compelling. Still, none of the state governments nor the federal government seems to want to do anything meaningful about this dangerous problem. Once the big cats become established in Australia, it will be virtually impossible to get rid of them, and the bush will become an even more dangerous place than it is already. Will it take the death of a person before official action is taken? Let's hope not. There are stranger things in heaven and earth, and you've just seen one of them on Animal X.